Hey guys, welcome back to a brand new Ninjago video here on the channel. My name is TannerFishies. In today's video, we are going to be discussing some rather interesting Ninjago Dragons Rising Season 3 news in the form of a list of characters that will be appearing in Dragons Rising Season 3 Part 1, the episodes that will be debuting here in a few days, and how many lines of dialogue they have. In other words, a list of characters and how many speaking lines they will have throughout the entirety of Season 3 Part 1. This is also a good way to at least guess how big of a role these characters will have in the upcoming Season 3 for Ninjago Dragons Rising. With that being said though, for a couple of quick disclaimers. For one, obviously this video will contain spoilers for Dragons Rising Season 3 Part 1. Like I said, we are only a few days away from getting these episodes, and this list essentially does reveal, again, how big of a role each of these characters will have in the upcoming batch of episodes for Ninjago. So consider that your official spoiler warning. And also for another disclaimer, I'd say take this with a very heavy grain of salt. From what I've seen, this list does not come from any one particular source. A couple of you guys sent this list my way early this morning. There are no sources attached to this from what I've seen. It just kind of appeared online. So again, take this information with a very heavy grain of salt. There are no sources attached to this list from what I've seen. And also, I suppose it is worth mentioning, this list is just strictly for Season 3 Part 1, the upcoming batch of 10 episodes releasing in a few days. This is not for the entirety of Season 3. This is just for Season 3 Part 1. So let's start with this batch of characters. We have a few characters to get through here. Let's start with this group, which has a lot of the main players, if you will, of Season 3 of Dragons Rising. For one, Eren and Sora have over 200 lines of dialogue each. That makes sense considering these two are the main characters of Ninjago Dragons Rising, and they have been since Season 1. It would make a ton of sense that these two would continue to have a lot of dialogue in Season 3, with Eren having the most dialogue. But again, it's not too far off from Sora, who is very close behind Eren. Then we have Lloyd, Nia, and Zane, all kind of sitting around the same amount of lines. Lloyd has 130, Nia has 126, and Zane has 124. I will say, it is interesting to note that Zane does not have the most lines in this season, despite Zane, being the mascot of this season. It just goes to show that whoever the mascot is not necessarily the focus character, since Zane, again, has nearly half the lines of Eren. So that's also worth noting there. Next up, we have Frack, Lord Ras, and Kai, each with a similar amount of dialogue as well. Frack has 116, Lord Ras has 114, and Kai has 109. Again, more main players of Dragons Rising Season 3. All of these make sense, especially Frack, who will very much be established in Season 3 Part 1 as a new ninja. Then moving on to this batch of characters, we have a couple of things to talk about here. First of all, Wildfire has 87 lines, so still pretty prominent compared to some other characters, but not as prominent as some of the other ninja, especially compared to the other new ninja. Pixel is next with 42 lines of dialogue after having no dialogue in Seasons 1 and 2 of Dragons Rising, so anything is a step up over the last few seasons for Pixel. 42 lines of dialogue makes sense there. It's looking very likely that Pixel will show up roughly halfway through Season 3 Part 1. Next up, we have Ericor the Djinn sitting at around 40 lines of dialogue there, so that also makes sense. Ericor is going to be in Season 3. We know that from the trailers and some of the other promo material. Then we have listed here Departed Soul, which I'm assuming is supposed to be Moro. Moro's name is nowhere on this list aside from this, the Departed Soul. So again, I'm assuming that's Moro. 46 lines of dialogue for Moro, so more than Pixel, which I think a lot of people will be excited to learn about. It sounds like Moro will have a lot of speaking lines this season, so I think we can look forward to that as Moro fans. Next, we have Roby, 38 lines of dialogue. That makes sense too. Again, carrying a similar amount of dialogue to Ericor. Roby will be a supporting role this season. Obviously, he gets decayed by Kerr and will more likely than not be a huge motivator for Wildfire. Next up, the one that I'm sure a lot of people are going to be mixed on, J/Rogue apparently only has 23 lines of dialogue in Season 3 Part 1. So in case you guys were hoping for Season 3 Part 1 to be a Jay-focused thing, I think you might be a little disappointed there, as Jay only has 23 lines of dialogue. Then again, that's not to say that Jay won't be in a lot of scenes. He totally could be, but he might be quiet for a lot of those scenes. He only speaks about 23 times or has 23 lines of dialogue. Then we have, in my opinion, one of the more disappointing entries here, Cole, with only 10 lines of dialogue throughout the entirety of Season 3 Part 1. Yeah, so this is also kind of expected, sure, but also kind of disappointing. We knew that Cole would not have that big of a role in Season 3 Part 1 because he's hardly in any of the promotional material and he's hardly in any of the trailers. In fact, in a lot of the trailers, he really only shows up in the scene where he's talking to Lloyd. That might be where the bulk of his dialogue comes in. Then we have Dareth with only 5 lines of dialogue, thank goodness, so it sounds like Dareth will not be a big part of Season 3. We knew thanks to a recent image that was revealed that Dareth would be back, but fortunately it seems like it's just a quick cameo as he has hardly any lines of dialogue. Then we have Master Wu with only 1 line of dialogue. Makes sense there, unfortunately, considering that Master Wu is hardly in the series anymore. He might just pop up as a ghost and say one thing, then promptly leave again, like he's been doing throughout Dragon's Rising thus far. And finally here we have a list of the villains and their lines of dialogue. Rox has 63 lines, the most out of any villain in Dragon's Rising Season 3. That makes sense considering that Rox is kind of like the main Forbidden 5 member, just based on, again, the trailers, the clips, etc. She does do a lot of the talking for the Forbidden 5, so her having the most amount of dialogue makes sense to me. Thunderfang is next with 41 lines of dialogue, so yeah, Thunderfang is going to be talking a little bit, probably not as much as he probably should, but still 41 lines of dialogue is nothing to sneeze at when it comes to the villains, because frankly a lot of them do not have a lot of things to say. Noct and Zarkt have a similar amount of dialogue, with Noct having 18 lines and Zarkt having 12. Dare I say, too low for both of them. Tyr is next of the Dragonians with 8 lines of dialogue, which is definitely not as much as I was expecting for Tyr, with him being like the main Dragonian. Then we have Drix and Kerr, the other 2 members of the Forbidden 5, with 6 lines and 5 lines respectively of dialogue. Yeah, so Drix and Kerr definitely do not talk very much, which is a little bit disappointing. Then again, trying to balance all of these characters might just be the most daunting task of the season for the writers, so I could see why they don't have so many lines of dialogue, but was hoping maybe they could at least talk more than 5 or 6 lines. That would have been nice. And finally, Zeatrix is in the season. We knew that already thanks to the clip that appeared online where she's talking with Jay. Zeatrix has 5 lines of dialogue this season, so definitely not the biggest role ever for Zeatrix. So like I said, everyone, that's going to pretty much wrap it up for my thoughts here. That's pretty much all I had to say in today's video, just going through some characters in Dragon's Rising Season 3 and how much dialogue they have, how many speaking lines they have. Obviously, like I said, this is just for Season 3 Part 1, not the entirety of Season 3, but just for Season 3 Part 1. The episode's releasing in a few days. So with that being said, leave all of your thoughts, theories, speculation, all of that good stuff down below in the comments. What exactly do you think about this list? Are you surprised by any of these? Let me know down below, and thank you so much for watching. If you guys enjoyed this one, feel free to like and subscribe, do all that fun stuff, and I will talk to you guys again very, very soon. Peace.